Okay. Whoa, that was loud. Because that's my windshield wiper. So here's the God's honest truth. I'm 30 years old. My father, the wonderful Anthony Wayne Conway, passed away at the age of 54. His mother, my grandmother, Maria Betty Conway, passed away in her early 60s from a massive, well, she had a pacemaker, she had a weak heart. They say it was a heart attack. My dad died at the age of 54 from a massive heart attack. My grandfather passed away in his late 50s, I think. This would be my dad's dad. He drowned. And I've been very fortunate on my mom's side that both grandparents have passed away in their mid to late 80s. So they've lived full lives. But I'm 30 years old, and I feel that in the event that my father's genes are the stronger of the two between my mom and my dad, I could be at risk for having some sort of weak heart and either needing a pacemaker like my grandmother had, or having a massive heart attack like they both ended up having. So with that said, I want to take the opportunity to make sure that I leave my mark. Specifically, I want to take the opportunity to make sure that I discuss things I want to discuss and say how I feel. So today I'd like to talk about just life in general. I think life is a crazy roller coaster, and there's no one way to do it correctly. I think what happens is we're all predisposed to our surroundings, our atmosphere, and based upon what your atmosphere is, whether it's a loving, nurturing one, or maybe one with domestic abuse and violence, I mean, who knows, right? When we're born, we don't really get to choose who our family's going to be and what our surroundings are going to be like. However, we do get to choose what we make with ourselves and our situation. I stand for a person who believes in we all make choices in life, and we can't play victim. I think that playing victim is very easy to do in a lot of cultures, and it's a great scapegoat when you never take full responsibility for your own actions, but it's because mom was mean or dad was never there or whatever the case might be. The truth of the matter is that if you want something bad enough, you're going to make it happen. And also, if you love yourself enough and you feel like you're worth it, you're going to make it happen. If you don't, you probably won't. That's the truth of the matter to me. So I encourage whoever sees this, that if you're feeling like, what's the use? What's the point? Number one, please know that there's always a point. If you woke up today and God provided air for your lungs, then there is a point. Today is a brand new day, and no one can take away your pain and your struggles from days past. That's neither here nor there anymore. Today's a new day. You get up, you try your very best to do your very best, to be the very best version of you that you can be, and you just hope for the best. Of course, have a realistic approach, but don't have a pessimistic approach. You know, I've gone through a lot of things in my 30 years, more things than I would like to get into, but if you read my story, if you knew my background, you'd probably think that I shouldn't be in the point of my life where I'm at. And I'm not trying to say that I'm wonderful and I have it all together, but the truth is that, you know, I think I've done decently for myself. Some other things I want to share is, don't let fear control you. Now, I'm going to bring in a little bit of religion into this, or faith, and I understand not everybody is connected with their spiritual side, or God, or Jesus, or whatever the case might be. I understand. I've been there. I was raised Catholic. Then we started going to a non-denominational church when I was in my preteen years. And then we just stopped going to church altogether. And then when I was in college, I was totally agnostic, like, borderline atheist. Actually, I'd probably say I was atheist before I was agnostic. Turned agnostic. I studied philosophy in college, where the Bible was no more than a textbook to me. And so I understand I've truly done the full roller coaster of faith, if you will. And then through my own self-discovery, I'll tell you what it was. I one day was in an airplane and I looked down to the world below and everything was so tiny. And at that particular time, I was going through a really nasty breakup, and I felt so controlled by my emotions, just depressed. And ultimately, all the emotions came from the way that my ex was making me feel, or I thought was making me feel, or whatever the case might be. And when I was looking down to the world, I thought, man, we are so tiny in the grand scheme of things that I should never let one tiny little speck, one person, and I don't mean speck, in a derogatory way, but a tiny little person, in the grand scheme of things, to control my world, my feelings. There's so much more out there. And that was the first eye-opening experience for me. And then I started realizing seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, just finding beauty in the weirdest things. Like for me, for example, I love sunsets. Sunsets are just so gorgeous. Sometimes they just make me tear up. My mom has a thing about trees. She loves the intricacies of trees and their beauty. And one day I realized that I was on the other side of that breakup. And just coming through that made me realize there has to be some sort of supreme being. I don't know all the technicalities of it. I don't know who, what, when, where, why. Is there one God? Is there multiple paths to the same God? But I knew at that moment that there had to be some sort of supreme power. And that's what eventually led me to want to know more about this and have a deeper understanding in my heart. And I ended up going to, walking into church one day, non-denominational church in Nashville, Tennessee, that I absolutely love, the Village Chapel. And they truly helped me rediscover my faith in our Lord Jesus Christ. But the reason I bring this up is because ultimately what I want you to know is, do not let fear control you. The most often repeated verse in the Bible is do not fear. And I believe it's that particular verse for a reason. As people, we tend to let fear of the unknown, fear outside of our comfort zone, dictate and control our lives. You often hear phrases like, it's not a good time right now to do this, or when the time is right, we'll take that vacation, or, and the truth of the matter is, there's never going to be a perfect time for anything. Life is not perfect, so by definition, there will be no perfect time, no right time. If you want to do something, if you want to try something new, do it. Go for it. Nothing in life is guaranteed. And you don't want to look back, letting the years slip away, wondering what if, or I should have, or why didn't I? And so I say to whoever's hearing this, just go for it. I moved to Nashville, Tennessee from Lubbock, Texas, with $700 in my pocket. I didn't have any family in Nashville, didn't know a soul, had never been there before. Well, let me back up on that. I visited one time before in the month of May of that particular year that I moved, but before that I had never been. And I was just like, you know what? I'm going for it. I I love to sing. I love to write music. So I'm just gonna see what happens. Was I scared? Hell yeah.